We need more representation. I see the latest news. Wisconsin Supreme Court orders new legislative maps in redistricting case brought by Democrats. Perfect timing, right? Just before the holidays, nobody's paying attention. Everyone's asleep. Well, I'm up. It's 10 o'clock. I just saw this headline. I wanted to make a video real quick. What's the problem here? You know, I've been arguing for probably 9 months now that the real solution to this so-called gerrymandering problem is we need more representation. And what better solution in a political environment when the Democratic Party, the liberal activists have been claiming that people like me, I hate democracy, apparently. This coming from a party that appointed Sarah Godlewski to Secretary of State, a constitutional office with absolutely no election. I can't think of anything more anti-democratic, but let's stay focused here on this particular court case. The article I'm reading is from AP. The court ruled 4-3 in favor of Democrats who argued that the legislative maps are unconstitutional because districts drawn aren't contiguous. New maps are likely to be unveiled in about 2 months. Well, that's funny. Unveiled. Yeah. Everything's all ready to go. Let me tell you, contiguous is a word that I'm sure nobody cares about. Here's a word I care about. Representation. You want to get rid of the problem of gerrymandering? Have smaller districts. You know, we haven't increased the number of assemblymen and women in this state since about 1970, and what happened back then was we went from 99 assembly people to we went from 100 to 99. We went backwards. Historically, on average, we used to have about 25,000 people per assembly district. It's a lot of people. I ran for county supervisor in Waukesha County. I had 16,000 people for one county supervisor district. You know how hard it is to knock on that many doors? We should have 3 times as many reps as we do in Madison. We should, because right now the number is about 68,000 people per district. You know, I believe that the maps aren't gerrymandered. I believe that the advantage that Republicans have in the state is due more to the distribution of the population. And unless the Democrats plan on pinwheeling the new maps out from the centers of the urban cities, there probably still will be a Republican majority after these maps, but will it be a representative assembly? I don't think so. I think that what this does is cause more chaos. I think we have a real problem with representation. You know, my assemblyman, Scott Allen, I agree with him on, probably 99% of all his votes. And he's kind enough to discuss issues with me and talk with me. But do I feel represented by Scott Allen? No. I talk to his legislative aide more than I talk to him. For all intents and purposes, his legislative aide is more of my representative than he is. And that, again, is nothing personal against Scott. If Republicans are smart, and Lord knows, that's a rhetorical question, but if the Republicans are smart here, what they will do is introduce a bill in both chambers to increase the amount of representatives both in the Assembly and the Senate, because it is much harder to claim that districts are gerrymandered when they're smaller. And in that case, I think that smaller districts will meet whatever constitutional definition of contiguous the court applied here. And I'm not a lawyer, but I can tell that this stuff stinks. And, it's quite ironic that this is happening while the state GOP is trying to dissolve the charter of the Barron County Republican Party. After the holidays here, the talking heads are going to go on the radio and they're going to bitch and moan about this decision and how this is terrible. And they'll never once mention that the state GOP is doing basically the exact same thing to one of their own county parties. Things are messed up. And I'm speaking on my own behalf here as a citizen, as an individual. I want more representation. We need more reps. It's pretty simple. 60,000 people per assembly district is too many. And for all the Republicans that are going to complain that somehow that's just going to cause chaos, or I say look around. What are we dealing with right now? This is out of control. So that's my 2 cents. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more commentary, but comment. Share your thoughts. Do you want more representation? What are you going to do about this? I hear the latest idea in Madison was to do a medical marijuana bill. Does that sound like a priority right now? Is that something we should be focusing on? And to all those people like myself who think that election integrity is the #1 issue, more representation means more election integrity. More people who have a vested interest in the outcome of the election, as opposed to the current situation where everything's already baked in the cake and nobody has any incentive to look into the process and the results. More representation means your voice will be heard. And again, to those people who think that more representation will somehow dilute the conservative message, I disagree wholeheartedly. I think the conservative message is a positive one. I think moving into the future of biotech and AI, the conservative message is going to be one that will save this country. But we can't do it unless we have more voices, more people working, and that's going to take more representation. So I call on anybody whoever has thought about running, who has ever thought about writing an editorial, consider this issue, consider the importance. Don't just bitch and moan about the decision. There's nothing you can do about the decision. We have a situation now where the governor of Illinois, who has, by the way, property in Lake Geneva, a district represented by Tyler August, the next would-be Speaker of the Assembly should Voss decide not to run. Tyler August, representing the governor of Illinois. We have to seriously consider that moving forward, we are going to have to stop complaining about what is obviously out of our control. We do not control how the Supreme Court votes, but we can take a proactive, pro-democracy message to the people. We can garner some favor and push back, because I don't know about you, but I've been hearing for the last 6-7 years about how Republicans are anti-democratic and we're trying to destroy the system. And what have we done to counter that? What's been our message? I mean, God bless every single person that fights for election integrity, but most people don't understand that issue as a pro-democracy issue. More representation is a pro-democracy issue. It's a constitutional issue. And if we don't take it or other ideas seriously, I see no reason to think that we have any hope of winning a Senate seat, a governor's seat. And again, the Republicans may control a small minority in one house or the other, and you'll have leaders like Voss and all of his lackeys capitulating, spending like drunken sailors, and it'll be the same old, same old. And eventually those of us who see the writing on the wall will just fall to the wayside and focus on our lives and maybe move to other states. But there is an opportunity now to right the ship. There still is hope. There's still a presidential election that is winnable, but we have to have the right message. We need leadership. And I certainly don't claim to be a leader, but I look around at what is called leadership nowadays, and I think that there's a vacuum and it needs to be filled. And what better way than to have more people running for more seats, so that the cream can rise to the top, so that we can have a deep bench. Because I don't know about you, but I look around even at the latest crop of men and women that were elected to the assembly. Some of them are good. Some of them have written for the Wisconsin Conservative Digest. Amanda Nutsky wrote a wonderful article about Moms for Liberty in her latest issue. God bless her. I think she is a wonderful addition to the assembly. But I look at some of the other people that were elected. Some of the legislative aides and the brown nosers who've simply worked themselves through the system and, basically gerrymandered it to their own advantage. We can do better, but we need to have the opportunities available to those people who would run. I've talked to many people who look at the price tag of an assembly race, and it's typically quoted as like $30,000, and they think, nah, too expensive, not worth it. It's a gamble. These are men and women who've worked hard. Maybe they have the money, but it's because they've worked hard and they've saved it, and throwing it away on a race when most likely they're going to have to fight their own side just to get through the primary, as opposed to having some kind of intellectual debate. I don't know. I'm rambling, but again, it's late night. It's frustrating because this stuff comes out in the dead of night now. But take the time to think about it. Take the time to formulate some kind of a response. My response is simple. More reps. God bless y'all. Merry Christmas. We'll see you on the other side.